Hey guys, this is Angel, the paranormal mystic. And if you like this content, please make sure to sub, like, and comment if it is respectful, of course. I also have a tarot channel. You can find it in the description or on my homepage of my channel. And it might be interesting to you because tarot is a great way to peer through the veil, and the icons, the archetypes represented in tarot help us to see through the gateway of the unconscious side of things. It's not anything we don't already truly know. It's not hocus pocus. It's just reflecting back to us what we need to see from a different perspective. Even Solomon said a wise man seeks many counselors before he goes to war. And tarot has a lot of symbolism with war, so you can prepare for the difficulties that lie ahead. Now, in this video, I do want to talk about universe, source, God, spirit, the law of attraction, what the New Age movement, the spiritual movement, often does not quite understand, or they will tiptoe around facts and give you partial truths because there is a lot of profit to be made if they can show you how to get what they have gotten. And I also want to approach this from more of like a theory that you can test out for yourself, a theory that I can test out for myself, not as in saying I know all, but because of my very logical upbringing, everyone in my family had like STEM jobs. You know, my father was a petroleum engineer. My mother was a microbiologist. My grandfather was a veterinarian. And I spent many summers with him, who was obsessed with popular mechanics, popular science, Nat Geo. And we used to spend hours just diving into research. And his father was a pharmacist. And it was a very kind of conservative um, upbringing. My dad, I would say, definitely they're conservative, like Baptist, but my grandfather was actually agnostic. I will say that I like to approach things from a very logical perspective. I love metaphysics. I think metaphysics is the key to our future, to the age of Aquarius. I think actually, I mean, I've actually had dreams. I have a video up about a dream where Jesus literally came to me and showed a parable of the old religion basically being thrown out because that is not where we're headed in the future. And so many religious people out there, Christians out there, will be like, that's not true. Nah, nah, nah. It is true. And Jesus even told them back in the day, I can't talk to you about spiritual things. You can't even handle earthly things. He tried to give them basic advice for finances and, just being a good person in the day to day life because he knew they couldn't handle spiritual things. He told them the kingdom of heaven is inside of you, that you are the temple. And here they are still building temples and throwing a bunch of money at a bunch of pastors and still looking for hired shepherds to lead them rather than going inside to source, to God Himself, which is what metaphysics is all about. And we don't have room nor need for the middleman as we enter the age of Aquarius. And a lot of religious people will consider metaphysical practitioners like me evil or the devil, and there's something wrong with us, when in reality, they are the accusers of the brethren, which is Satan. And I would also dare to say that as we come into the age of Aquarius, more and more people are going to be able to give their experiences on social media, and it wakes people up from the stupor, the drunken stupor of the wrath of God that people drink when they're in a constant state of judgment and cruelty, and watch near-death experiences, NDEs. And I mean, I had my first one probably when I was too young to remember it, but I definitely came back different, and I came back knowing things that only near death experienced people seem to know when it comes to past lives, when it comes to telepathy, yada yada. And there's so many of them. They'll all tell you flat out religion does not matter in heaven. It is not about religion whatsoever. And it's kind of silly at this point. Now, I do want to go over this because I also feel like the New Age movement and the spiritual movement are missing a lot of marks too. They're kind of just beginning to wake up and understand what the truth is. So they think they've got it all figured out because they can drive around in their hot sports cars and show off their nice, expensive studios. And, look at me. The law of attraction works if you work it. And, meanwhile, like those of us with more, what would you call, like tribalistic, shamanic types of personalities are like, why is that successful? You're destroying the environment and you don't even care because you just want to have fun. And to us, success is living in harmony with nature and leaving no footprint and being in peace and having the freedom to live in peace with nature without the government dictating everything that you do and making it impossible to just live in nature. I mean, right now, I do want to do some videos on this, maybe on a different channel. I don't know. Right now, I live in the Ouachita Mountains, and you can go out and look at the destruction that our government has done to the national forest. We were told the national forest should belong to the government to protect it, but they actually leased it out for profit. There's pine plantations all over the Ouachitas. The Ouachita Mountains are very sacred. They're very unique. They run east to west, unlike the other mountain ranges in the US. And we have flora and fauna that are both in the east and west coast. We are this beautiful, secret abode not many people in the country know exist. We have crystal grids everywhere. We have hot springs. It is so sacred here. And they're destroying it by planting, uh, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands upon thousands of acres of pine plantations. And they're also leasing out national forests to giant corporations who want to blow up the earth to get crystals in a very unsustainable way for profit. Again, that is not saving the planet or caring about the earth. They'll tout all day long that they do, but they don't. Now, I know I'm going off on little tangents, but I want to kind of build a sphere, a bubble of where I'm coming from. And those of you who are resonating with this, I welcome you and I look forward to having more videos in the future. I don't know how often I can post because I have health issues. And at this time, I kind of, when the passion moves me enough, I find a way. It's late. I'm tired. I have to get up early, but I'm doing this. So, universe, God, and source. So let's say God, universe, source. A lot of people see them as one and the same, right? They'll say, oh, you have to show the universe what you're worth. You have to tell the universe what you're worth. You're getting bad narcissistic partners and you're poor and hungry and in bad health and suffering because you're showing the universe what you're worth and it's going to give you what you say you're worth. Now, do any of you guys notice a problem with that? I mean, I sure do. It's the fact that they also say universe is source and that source is God. And I sure as hell don't have to show my maker what I'm worth. He knows what I'm worth. He made me. That's the silliest thing I've ever heard of. I'm in his image. I'm made a little mini creator just like him. I'm made to create. Okay. I really, truly feel like this is where Hermeticism, the law of attraction, and New Age principles are failing us because we have to look at it for what it is. We have to shine a light on the dark and face the truth. And again, let's look at this as a theory. I feel very passionate about this theory, but if you don't believe me or if you doubted me, let's just test this, like I said. I think the universe is chaos. It's just energy. It is not a positive or a negative, and it isn't sentient, and it isn't aware, but it is God's creation. So we need to look at it from the fact that God is also everywhere, and He's in the universe, He's in us, He's in all things, and He is sentient. He is very aware. He knows what we need before we ask. And then we also need to understand that He loved us so much that He wanted to put us in a very low density physical reality so that we could learn how to create too. Can you imagine how lonely it would be to realize that you are the creator of heaven and earth and all things, and there is nothing as vast as you and never will be? How can you find equals when all you want to do is spread the love? It's trying to put it in our hands. It's God has been trying and trying to get us to be spiritually accountable, responsible adults and create and become creators ourselves. And evil knows this. Evil knows that there's this energy out here that He put out here for us to direct. This universe, this chaos energy goes into the path of least resistance every time. It's just like water. Where does it go? In the path of least resistance, right? So, what does evil do? Since it knows this, it knows there's a difference in between the universal energy and God. Hermetics probably sort of know it too, but they want to interpret it in a way where they feel like they can put God in a genie bottle and control it. But like the average layperson, the good person who's begging for help all the time, doesn't know this, and that's the problem. You have to direct that energy. Now, that's why a lot of law of attraction people find success. It's also why a lot don't. And they're like, you have to show the energy what you're worth. You have to show the universe what you're worth, right? That's actually very, very true. But don't approach it from the standpoint that you're trying to show your maker what you're worth, because your maker already knows. You're priceless. You're a jewel. You're one out of infinity. There is no other you. Okay? The universe doesn't know that, and it doesn't care. It's almost like this soulless, heartless thing. It is the darkness in a way. Okay? You also have a lot of ancient religions who love to talk about balance between good and evil and light and dark. And I actually truly believe that we most certainly are not in balance right now, or there would not be so much suffering. And that we may not ever have balance in the way that we think in our human finite mind, because darkness is never equal to light. It's just the absence of light. And as God creates and gives us the power to create, the universe expands, it's ever expanding. So, what if there will always be more darkness than light? But what if it is always fleeing from the light that is in you and in me? What if it's our job to make it flee, to turn on that light? We can't be passive. There's no room for passivity in this world full of pain and blood and suffering and death. Now, when we go out during the day, we see the sun from our little tiny earth and we think, wow, it was so bright. There's so much light. But if you go out at night, you're no longer under the spell of the sun and you see what's really out there. There is a lot of darkness. There is so much more darkness than light. And back in the ancient days, when men thought from that one planet and thought, oh, there's the sun, here's us on Earth, and we have seasons where we have more light and seasons where we have more dark, and we need to balance this. But if you were to remove yourself from the earth and be floating in space, you would see that the sun is also a tiny flashlight compared to the vastness of the universe. So there is so much more dark. And that darkness is powerful. It's powerful at like a void. It's like it sucks us in. It's like gravity. It's so painful. I sit here and I talk and I look on my poster on my wall, and I'm looking at the classical picture of the Nine of Swords where someone is crying in bed and there's all these swords above them and it's dark behind it. There's a lot of darkness behind the Ten of Swords as well. And it does express well the pain that we go through, the suffering that we go through because of dark. The darkness has never understood the light and always tries to flee from it. And the reason why I want to bring this up is we do need to actually choose to harness and direct this universal energy. But we have to be extraordinarily careful and be responsible with it. All the people right now who are choosing to do this for self gain, to have their fancy sports cars and their jet skis and their high rise apartments and their fan base, and they have all the money to pay for promoted YouTube videos so that they get hundreds and thousands of views, and people like me who are small timers can't get any. And they have the money to pay for bots, they have the money to pay for a PR team. They're living the life. I mean, they're really riding high right now. And they say, hey, if you pay me a lot of money, I'll give you a good tarot reading or a good astrology reading or a good this or a good that or coaching skills so that you can make a lot of money just like me. And it's kind of silly because really they're just making a good sales pitch. I mean, anyone that says that makes a lot of money. It's like all of those disgustingly long infomercials on YouTube where people are like, look at all my cars and look how rich I am. You can be rich just like me if you buy my product. It's not any different than like Creflo Dollar and all of these pastors saying, plant a seed, we're going to be rich. And here they are in these private jets and everything. And people are desperate and giving them their seed, giving them their money. To me, that is not a very responsible way to approach the law of attraction, as they call it. And I also feel like it's not even about attracting. It's more about navigating. It's more about directing and catching certain currents and flows of energy and kind of guiding the flow and current of energy to go in certain directions. So you want to create the energy, or I should say, you want to create a current that the energy can ride that's a path of least resistance in a way you want it to go. This is why both religious people, churches, the Vatican have tried so hard to misinterpret the Bible and have actually twisted it around to make people afraid to practice what they call today witchcraft or rituals or intentional things, because they don't want the lay people to have any spiritual power whatsoever. The Bible's full of astrology, and we'll sit there and say astrology is bad at the same time. And you'll see Jesus telling his disciples to only take a staff with you, and Elisha, and Moses all had staffs and practiced magic like Merlin. And they'll say magic is bad, when really the word sorcery in the Bible is more like pharmakeia or pharmakia, which is the local pharmacy. So that is much more akin to what it actually originally meant, going to your local pharmacy, than the type of witchcraft that most people do. I certainly believe that you can make witchcraft evil. Definitely. When it's demonic, when it's black magic, when it's harmful, and you're directing energy to cause harm, that is evil. And when you're using astrology, which you know that every freaking political party, every monarchy, the Vatican, they all have astrologers in their pocket. They all use it to decide when to make war, when to have peace, when to make certain new laws, and when to release certain bioweapons. And everything is revolving around astrology for them. And it's extremely stupid and ignorant when we, as people of everyday life, we just sit back and go, oh, woe is me, what is happening? Oh, I'm afraid to look at metaphysics, it's scary, it's evil. When you're just playing the victim, you may as well roll over and play dead, be a possum, and just let life happen. But if you're going to direct this energy in a selfish way, there will be consequences. If you're using the law of attraction, if you're using this energy, this universal energy to be selfish and to get selfish gain, do you really think that that's good? Do you really think that that's what the creator wants for you? Why are we not using the same energy to create peace on earth, to create sustainability, to create balance with nature, plants, animals, harmony, to have a more agorist society where we're not being coerced into um, practically indentured servitude to giant corporations that are making billions while we can't afford to pay for basic needs? No animal in nature has to pay for food or shelter. This is something that was created by the elites, and we shouldn't have to either. Why are we not directing the energy in that path for our children and their children and their children? Now, I do think that it is extremely volatile and dangerous to try and force this universal energy to go the way you want. And the reason why is I have seen Bible verses that talk about uh, the violent taking heaven by force. And the church loves to take that and say, oh, yes, we're taking it by force. I'm sorry, but it also, if they would actually look at the old Bible verses in Isaiah as well, they would be cast out of heaven. This is a huge misconception in both the religious and the spiritual communities, that they assume that all celestial beings, all heavenly beings are good. And it's spoken about in the Bible many times that Satan is in the heavenly realm and will be cast out. And it talks about other heavenly beings that will be cast out and punished. And you will see a lot of people in the New Age movement channeling. Now, when I first got really good at my psychic abilities, I could channel these beings as well. But you know what I noticed? I don't care if you call it Archangel Michael, who's really considered a celestial prince. And if you want to channel multitudes of angels, you see all these people channeling like Bashar and Theo and all of these things. I listen to what they say, and I can usually catch them lying within the first 5 to 15 minutes. They talk in circles and they lie. And like one, I think the guy who's like, "Oh, I'm channeling Bashar," was saying how telepathy isn't real. And that telepathy is really more of a vibration, and that we just misunderstand because it's two people getting on the same wavelength and blah 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 blah. I was like, holy shit, this guy is so much more remedial than I am, and I don't have a following. And here he is fooling tons of people. I've already done a video on that about telepathy. Um, can you get on the same wavelength and read each other without words? Oh, yes. That's not telepathy. I'm sorry, but it's not. Telepathy is legitimately, literally reading somebody's mind. And you most certainly do not have to be on the same wavelength, because psychic vampires are infamous for this. Our own government has used it in PSYOP operations because they want to PSYOP. They want to use it to read minds as well. They have gotten really good at that. And I have had people read my minds who are extremely low vibration. And I have also read minds of low vibration people when I am not low vibe. I'm sorry, that is not true. You can, however, definitely psychically link up without words. That's what I do with animals a lot. I've been doing that since I was in diapers. Is how I've saved so many animals. I have rescued little mice that have washed out of drains. I've saved birds that have little bird chicks, that have been knocked out of nests. And when they wake up, they all want to come to me and love on me, and I let them go. Or like the little mouse I had saved, it was so cute. I was an adult. When I woke it up, what I always do with animals that I find passed out asleep, I usually get a nice warm washcloth, a little shoebox type thing, and put it under a hot lamp so that when they wake up, they're dry and warm. And when the little mouse woke up, I knew if it got loose in the house, it would die. So as soon as it woke up, I brought it outside. And after it, preened itself, whatever, it got clean and dry. And as it started to run away, it turned back around and ran towards me and stood up and looked at me like, "Thank you so much," with the sweetest eyes, like, "I can't believe you saved me. I am so small. I can't believe you noticed me." And then it scurried off. But with the little bird, it was a mockingbird, and I saved it when I was, I don't know, a child. And my parents, nobody else cared. Just like, oh, bird washed out, in the storm, and it was all wet and knocked out. It was not um, conscious. And I felt like it could live. So I did. That was the first time I did this, putting it in a little box under a hot lamp. And when it woke up, it did not want to get off of me. Like, it loved me because I spoke to it while I was asleep. And um, it was the sweetest thing. My parents didn't let me keep it. We brought it to some bird lady because we couldn't get it back in the nest or anything. So I have communicated with animals my whole life doing that. I have a lot of animal rescues, and I love how they communicate with me like that. It's not that they understand our human words so much as they understand the energy behind it. But that's just one example of how these so-called channels, like these celestial beings, a lot of them are just like, they're breaking the law. Like, they're fallen. They're not all, everyone assumes that all fallen angels and things are like these evil demons that want to, rape and plunder. And there's definitely plenty of those. But there's a lot of celestial beings who want to feel worshiped and feel like they can do a better job than God. So they like to come around and stir up trouble. But most of what they say is talking in circles. And what most of these channels don't understand is that these entities channeling through them don't have any desire to give you any new knowledge that you don't already have. Their goal is just to get time. The more time that you're spent channeling them, the more time that they can spend with you, the more attention they get, the more they're feeding off of you. Okay. And that's why they talk in circles for extended periods. It's just because they want your attention. It's like a form of worship. And most celestial beings that are good have no desire to interfere. They don't want to interfere. It's not their job to interfere. They only interfere when we ask. So there's that. But what I did want to go over with these verses is, let me see if I can find the eyes. I've got so many verses, and like, I know that the Bible has been misinterpreted a lot, guys. I know there's one book that's written misquoting Jesus. I haven't read it yet. I'd like to. There's a lot of people that are showing how it has been deliberately misrepresented. But I did want to go over some of these because here's the thing. No matter how much they have tried to alter the Bible to keep us powerless, they have failed because they have eyes but cannot see and they have ears but cannot hear. So they oftentimes miss certain verses and they kind of are blinded on purpose so that we get what we need. Okay. Now, look at this one right here. Let's see if I can find it. Okay. This is Isaiah 24:21. In that day, the Lord will punish the powers in the heavens above and the kings on the earth below. They will be herded together like prisoners bound in a dungeon. They will be shut up in prison and punished after many days. Now, you can read Amplified Version, it's more extended, and there's all different versions you can go and read if you like. I am telling you, these celestial beings and earthly beings who are manipulating energy to get what they want, that is the violent ones grabbing a hold of the kingdom by violent force. And that is not a good thing. A lot of churches and a lot of seminary people try to say it's a good thing. I know that it's not. I have had demonic attacks happen to me. This is why I know that metaphysics and everything that I have done works. But I also know that Jesus saves. And a lot of people want to believe one or the other. But because of my own personal experience, literally not just an opinion, okay? One time I had I used to get attacked a lot in astral when I was young. And it's a long story of how I think that came to be. It was when I was being molested when I was, a child. I was in junior high, but I was most certainly a child. And I got very depressed, very dark thoughts. The enemy wanted to take me out at that time. And I was having a lot of sleeping paralysis and astral projections. And when I would wake up, my body would be asleep, my soul would be awake, and I would be attacked by very dark entities. So, this person who molested me not only caused me physical harm, but it opened the doors up for me to be attacked spiritually. And many years later, like I had learned how to get rid of that through self love and taking care of myself and not thinking negative, and also spiritual warfare. I mean, this is how I knew Jesus is real too, because nothing scares away those demons like the name of Jesus. You can just sit there in sleeping paralysis and say Jesus, and you can feel them trying to cover up your spiritual mouth so that you can't speak. And the more that you say it, they have to flee. Like they hate the name of Jesus, okay? And I know someone out there is going to be like, that's right, that's right. That's why religion works. And you're all going to hell if you don't believe what I believe. And I'll be like, you know what? You're not God. So back off. Back off. And I know Jesus and I know Christians are two very different things. And so I would dare to go further and say, I had this experience, maybe, okay, it was a few years ago, maybe 2011, somewhere around there. And I was napping, and it was when I was actually doing some work for a church. And it was before I really walked away from the man-made church. And the corruption you consistently find in the church gets old, and there was definitely corruption at that one. And I was taking a nap, and I started getting attacked in astral again. And I had done something I had never done before. I had the courage. I'm not afraid of it like I was when I was a child. And I said, "What is your name?" I demanded to know the name of the demon. And you know what it said? Violent force. A violent force has been after me most of my life. It tried to take me out as a baby. I've had many men assault and rape me and strangle me and or choke me, try to strangle me. And I've had a lot of pain and suffering in my life. And violent force is a demon, okay? Violent force is trying to take hold of the heavenly realms and direct energy. Do you notice how most people that have near death experiences, when they go into heaven, the heavenly realms, all the beings there not only show you how important your thoughts and your words are, but they also usually experience that whatever they think or want manifests immediately. There's nothing stopping them. So the heavenly realms are these protected spheres that are completely saturated in the love of God, and it's all within his sphere of influence. When we're here on earth, we are on the front lines of warfare. We are on the front lines. This is uncharted territory that we are in. And this energy is real. This is unleashed potential. We don't have the protection of the heavenly realms. Most heavenly beings do not understand what we go through here on earth. And they cannot comprehend nor help us in the way that we think. Not through channeling, not through begging. He who is within us is mightier than he who is in the world. Okay? So you have to approach it from the point of source within us is always going to give us more guidance than any of these heavenly beings who don't know what pain and suffering is. Why do you think Christ did what he did? Because the heavenly beings that have never had an incarnation on earth cannot comprehend the suffering that we are going through. But many of us signed up for this so that we can actually start to create in the real physical world so that we can actually become creators ourselves. It's so easy to do in the little heavenly bubbles, but not in this wild west of 3D. All of us are so excited to get out of the 3D. We don't like it. Let's go to 5D. Let's go to this D, blah, 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 blah. And that was never the point of us being here. The point of us being here is to learn how to create, to learn how to push darkness out, to learn how to shine our light, be the living water, be the water bearers in the age of Aquarius to overflow. like the Ace of Cups in tarot, to overflow. That's our job. And a lot of people do come here just to experience life. But some of us came here to work. We came here to get things done. And I was still, I want to say stolen. My life was stolen from me for a long time because I was so well groomed by parents who partly meant well, but partly are just narcissistic. And I say that because if anything got in between them and their good time, including me, if it meant I had to get molested or had to be locked up in a room, then so be it. Because those good old Southern Baptists want to play their canasta till 3 a.m. on a school night. And who cares what happens to their little girl? And she can't tell anyone about it either because they don't want CPS involved. I mean, they want to have more fun, don't they? And even after all is said and done, they still have the nerve to have me do dishes till after midnight at night while they're sitting there playing canasta, laughing and having a good old time. And I have to go to school the next morning. I mean, these same parents were the same ones who consistently told me that past lives don't exist and telepathy isn't real and that my dreams and visions aren't real and that my psychic abilities are a lie and that astrology is evil. And so I was so groomed for so long to doubt in myself, to run from my own powers, to fear my own strength, that I'm broken. I am very, very broken. I am like a porcelain doll in a million shards, and I'm having to pick up each piece by piece, and glue them back together so that I can do what I came here to do. And I am sure that evil really wanted to take me out. It tried more than once and failed. So I'm doing my job. And this pain and suffering isn't for naught. Anyone who is going to be initiated into shamanism or any form of deep spiritual healing to heal others has to go through trials by fire. We are baptized with fire so that we can actually say, hey, I've suffered. I'm not speaking from a place of privilege or ivory tower here. I've suffered. So people who are suffering can see that we too feel the pain of knowing what it's like to be victims of circumstance when this universal energy is coming at you full force and trying to take you out. Now, I want to see if there's any more verses I wanted to bring up. I'm going to try to put some up in the pictures for this video. And I also wanted to bring up, oh, yes, I did want to bring this up. You know, in Jude, look at in the book of Jude, and it does talk about how we shouldn't slander celestial beings, which is by far one of like the Christians' favorite pastimes. Anything they don't understand, any other faith, pagans, their deities, they love to, slander night and day celestial beings. And it talks about how they're nothing more than brute beasts, just with animal instincts, and they're idiots for doing it. So I don't want to come off as if I am slandering all celestial beings or any, because I don't know it all. And there are so many wonderful celestial beings out there. And I do believe many gods and goddesses and deities from many cultures are just a form of celestial being. Many are good, many are bad. And a lot of the crazy mythology stories we hear is just man trying to make a religion. They're assigning human attributes to these deities. They are also politicizing it the same way they have the Christian faith. It's more of a political movement. And it does not mean that Odin isn't real. It doesn't mean that Osiris and others aren't real. I've actually had both of them come to me in dreams. And Odin seems to be one who actually guards this earth and is very protective over it. Osiris seems to come from another planet and I think is actually very physical. And I do think that they come back and forth, and it makes a lot of sense why there's so many spooky stories of aliens and Egypt. I really do think that I've been there and I did not care for it, even though it was so much easier there and it was so perfect. It just felt too sterile, and they keep trying to convince me that's where I want to be. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. So I feel like there's something else I did want to say. Maybe it's just the whole Revelation part too, where it talks about casting the devil out, then the old serpent, right? There will come a time when the bad is cast out, and I'm glad, glad and grateful for it. I don't feel like any of us should want to be on the side of being forceful or violent to get what we want when it comes to directing and harnessing this energy that people call the universe. But I do think it is very empowering to direct it and direct it for good, for the highest good for all. And you can do that through what people call spell work, prayers, rituals, medicine. You have many ways you can do that: positive affirmations, meditation, acts of love and charity, whatever it takes. But it is important to distinguish that difference, because sometimes you're too weak and you're too broken to direct energy anywhere. And when that happens, that's when divine intervention is so vital. It is when you're just on your knees begging for help. And it comes in the form of miracles, but only when we need it. Many times we get fed up, we get tired, we get exhausted, especially if you have a lot of 12th house or Scorpio in your chart like I do. You can get fed up. But it is God throwing us out of that eagle nest. It really is. We may not like it, but He's got to throw us out of that nest of comfort and make us learn to fly on our own. And He will do it again and again and again until we become spiritually accountable and responsible. He gives us breaks, He'll give us a reprieve, He'll give us some time of refreshment, but then we're back to work again. And you have to learn how to soar, how to use that energy to fly. Just make sure you do it for the highest good and not for selfish gain. So that's all I have to say for tonight. I think there's so many more things I would love to go over at some point. And if you have any theories, feel free to drop them below. So long as they're respectful, I would be intrigued. And if you have your own version of it, that would be great to hear. Or if you have any other theories that you would like me to touch base on, where religion and New Age spirituality kind of have a tendency to both swing too far in the pendulum, and they miss that narrow gate. They miss that little narrow doorway of truth. They're so wide, isn't it? That leads to destruction. They're so wide in what they believe, both. But trying to find that sweet spot in the middle can be very tricky. So if you have any ideas of your own, let me know. And I love you and I bless you. Until next time.